Good morning, everyone, and welcome into episode 4 of Wake and Take. I'm your host, Jason, and we've got a ton of stuff to talk about today. We've got news from the Combine. We've got some legal stuff to talk about. Team report cards came out yesterday. Aaron Rodgers was talking about what happened on his darkness retreat. All sorts of fun stuff to talk about around the NFL. Today, same coffee as usual, actually, this morning, just going back to the iced coffee. I'm a big fan of it right now. So that's what I'll be drinking. I hope y'all are ready for a great episode. I see I've got Aaron, Jack, my man Chad in the chat. So let's go ahead and get right into today's episode. All right, so latest news from the Combine is, as reported by Cody yesterday, Cody Carpentier NFL on Twitter, on TikTok, on all the platforms even. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is not going to be running the 40, or at least not expected to. It makes sense. It's not like he's crazy fast, but he's still a great wide receiver. He's a technician, makes plays, all that fun stuff, but he's not running the 40, expecting it to hurt his draft stock. If he does run it, he doesn't think he'll be that fast. I do want to raise the question. I mean, I feel like everyone has watched film on him and everyone understands already that he's not that fast. So I don't necessarily see how running a slow 40 really would hurt his draft stock, considering, that's kind of what's expected. It would be nice to see the actual number come in, but it is what it is. I don't think it's necessarily important to his fantasy success or his NFL success, regardless of if he runs this thing. He's still going to get drafted high and hopefully on a good team, and he's still going to be a good wide receiver. So that's what's happening. He's not running the 40-yard dash. Another news out of the Combine is that the Panthers have met with 5 quarterbacks, so clearly they're in the quarterback hunt. So rest in peace to Matt Corral. Poor guy, got a tough shake. You get injured for the whole season. The next season, you hope you get a chance, and then, well, you don't. Your organization is meeting with a ton of teams. They're even negotiating contracts with Sam Darnold right now. Really anything to not let Matt Corral get a chance. Hate to see it for him, but maybe he just, maybe they just haven't seen enough. They haven't seen enough. I see a Hans in here. I see he's a simple man. He sees Rashod Bateman in the description. He's going to have to hang around. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. Yes, you will. Let's talk about these team report cards, because I think it's interesting to talk about. This is the first time in NFL history that report cards have come out for the NFL. So they've interviewed 1,300 players, and they surveyed them about the facilities, the staff, just overall treatment of players, even like as far as how they treat their family members. And the top 3 teams, according to all these players, were the Vikings were number 1, Dolphins were number 2, and the Raiders were number 3. So those are the better organizations to play for if you're an NFL player. And then I want to talk a little bit about these worst teams, because it was, at least this one was shocking to me. At 30th, the Chargers came in. They were the 30th worst team to play for. You have heard tons of stories about how terrible their owners are, so it makes a certain amount of sense. Cardinals in at 31, and we'll come back to that in a second. And then, of course, we've spent the last 2 episodes talking about how bad this team is all around. It's the Commanders. The Commanders are the worst team to play for in the NFL. Obviously, Dan Snyder sucks, and that goes a long way when you're talking about a whole organization. So they're the worst team to play for. But interestingly enough, the Cardinals probably should have been the worst team. They failed everything that wasn't football related. So they had really good grades in like their workout facilities and like their traveling. all of that fun stuff. But they're the only team in the entire NFL that deducts dinner costs from players' paychecks if they get food from the facility. And that's just mind-boggling to me. 31 teams pay for players' lunches if they're eating while there, and I assume that we're not talking about like super fancy dinners. And you're how do you even what's the point of deducting that from like $1 million contracts? Like what's the math on that? You've made them pay like $18.34 every couple of weeks. What's the point? It just shows that they just don't really care about their players. They just don't really care about their players, man. So that I just wanted to talk about because I just thought it was a little silly. Ahan, let's do it. Let's do this just for you. Rashod Bateman, he's doing well and should be fully ready for all these training camps and hopefully back to being explosive and everything. You know, we love Rashod Bateman here. We love the Batman. So not much to say about it. Just kind of excited to hear that he's healthy, and he's expected to be at least full go for the whole season. And yeah, something to look forward to. Definitely something to look forward to. While we're on the Ravens, they've come out and said that they have 4, 5, or 6 plans regarding how to handle Lamar Jackson's situation, whether that be a franchise tag or other plans. Kind of funny way to phrase it, 4, 5, or 6. You know, why not just 6 plans? Why not 4 plans or 5 plans? How do you not know how many plans you have? But yeah, that's that. So the Ravens are still trying to work around getting Lamar Jackson. They're probably bringing him back. You know, there's always rumors that these players that are a little bit dicey are going to be leaving the organizations, but I just find it hard to believe that the Ravens would let him walk. I mean, they clearly lost their playoff game because he wasn't there. So, you know, if he's back, Ravens obviously back to being one of the better teams in the AFC. Rashod Bateman's healthy, then, you know, we're looking at a pretty solid core again with Mark Andrews and him, and then hopefully they bring in one other wide receiver or something to get that going. I mentioned in the preview, Aaron Rodgers will soon be making a decision. He went on a little podcast thingy yesterday and specifically said it is better to make a decision sooner rather than later. So I don't necessarily think we're going to have to wait too long. What I thought was kind of interesting when in the interview, he actually said like he just got his eyes back. So when you spend these days in the darkness, it takes a couple days to even see again, to even be able to open your eyes and adjust to the brightness. So I think he's just literally going through a lot physically somehow, and just hasn't really come around to it. His quote is, "I'm under contract with the Packers, so if I decide to play first, it's a conversation with them." And he was asked where he's at. Honestly, I've been there for 18 years, and he has so much love for the organization in Green Bay. 18 years as a teenager. Yeah, so to me, either way, it sounds like he's playing. More than a few times in this interview, he said he feels like he still has it. And, you know, his stats weren't the best last year, but not much was going for that team in general. So I think if he decides to play, he'd be fine. He's obviously not ever going to win an MVP or anything like that again, but I think he's back. We'll see what happens with the Packers. I know I've said a couple episodes ago, I think he's back with the Packers, but this quote from I don't even want to try to pronounce this. Brian Gutekunst. Jordan Love is ready to start and needs to play. That's the Packers general manager. So front office wants Jordan Love out there. And I mean, I think that means something. So, I mean, it's genuinely a true battle. It's going to come down to Aaron. And we should probably see within the next couple of weeks, I think. He specifically pointed to Brett Favre being wishy-washy throughout his entire process before ultimately coming back. He said he does not want to do that. He said he wants to make a decision sooner rather than later. So I do think we will get that. I'm going to trust his word on that. Plus, if he retired, then he would have to share a Hall of Fame induction ceremony with Tom Brady. And Aaron Rodgers is not the kind of guy that strikes me as wanting to share a celebration with Tom Brady. So I think that's enough to know he's at least playing football next year. At the Combine, the former Eagles offensive coordinator, now Colts head coach, brought up Jalen Hurts unsolicited. Essentially, Shane Steichen was asked, what do you want the future Colts QB to look like? What do you want him to do? And he just said, specifically, I want them to imitate Jalen Hurts. And apparently he is consistently at the Eagles training facilities from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. So 15 hours every single day training. That's just a different breed. I love Jalen Hurts. I think all of us do here. And it's just great to see that kind of work ethic from anyone really. And that's how you maintain success in the league. Obviously, lots of quarterbacks with his archetype fall off, get injured a lot, all this stuff. But even when he's been injured, he comes back pretty quickly. Like compared to other people suffering the same injuries, and comes back and performs at the same exact level, sometimes even better. Sometimes like he just had to take a break for a little bit. So, I mean, I think Jalen Hurts is going to be here for a pretty decent amount of time. Obviously, it's not like that's a hot take or anything. I just, I like seeing that. And I mean, when you hear he's at the facility for 15 hours a day, it's no wonder that QB sneak works so well. It's no wonder that thing works so well. He's working so hard. We already know how much he can squat, all that stuff. So good for Jalen Hurts. Good for the Eagles. I mean, they have a true stud and just great man in general at their quarterback, leading the organization. All right, guys, I've got a few more things, and yeah, all right. I know I'm going to break this up. DeAndre Hopkins is going to get traded. Nothing new, or at least they're still shopping him. They're looking specifically for a second-round pick and a conditional pick as a return. I mean, I think he deserves it, but I don't necessarily think NFL organizations will be paying up for that. We'll have to see. Tons of teams need a wide receiver, and I think DeAndre Hopkins could bring a team like, say, the Ravens. We talked about them earlier, to a great position. I think that'd be fantastic. I would like it if he went to the Patriots or the Falcons, whatever, any of my teams. I like DeAndre Hopkins. So I think a second-round pick to basically enhance your wide receiver core twofold at least. I think that's worth it. But that's something that's definitely, if it happens, that's going to happen on draft day. A team that wants a wide receiver just had the wide receiver they were going to get picked. And now it's like, well, shit, let's just go trade for D-Hop. And that's probably exactly what's going to happen. So while you're watching the draft, maybe take out some, I don't know if you can even do it, just some futures or whatever on DeAndre Hopkins being traded on day 2, maybe day one, but probably day 2. All right, so Tua, we have a quote about Tua Tagovailoa. Dolphins general manager Chris Greer had said, "I can't lie and say no," and this was about the concerns of Tua's durability. "It's something that's going to make us afraid to do something long term." They have a few more days to decide if they're picking up his 5th-year option. I think hearing that quote, they're probably not going to, or if they do, it ends at just getting the 5th-year option. He did go on to rave about his growth, his work, and bond with Mike McDaniel, but you guys can understand. Put it in the comments if you agree, but I mean, all those concussions, man, and I mean, other injuries are incredibly concerning. I mean, I think that there's plenty of a case to be made that he should just retire and walk away. I mean, it can't be good. It really cannot be good for him. So I understand where Chris Greer's coming from. And yeah, I mean, I don't see at least a big contract coming his way anytime soon. It's just going to be, if anything, this 5th-year option gets picked up and they see what happens, if he can even, survive another season. Survive's not a good word for that. Go the finish a season. And I don't know. So I think they're probably not going to do the 5th-year option. If they do, it ends there. Let's move on to the law. Before I get into yesterday's big story, I want to talk about Brian Flores. His racial discrimination lawsuit will proceed to federal court. And while the NFL wanted to compel the arbitration, they are not doing that. This will be looked at federal court. It's the Broncos, the Texans, and one other organization, I should have wrote that down, are all being investigated for, of course, racial discrimination against Brian Flores. Jack, you're in the chat on our episode on Sunday on the Player Profiler today. I said I'm still pissed off about how that situation was handled. That dude deserves a head coaching job, and there was definitely something going on there. So I'm excited to see what the courts think. So let's move on to this Jalen Carter stuff, and I'm gonna try to do my best here. I feel it's important to try to tackle these things as a journalist, as tragic as they are. So let's just go with some facts here. And first off, rest in peace to Chandler LaCroix. She was the woman driving the car that wrecked, and then of course the Georgia football player Devin Willock. Rest in peace to them. It's it's a sad story to hear. This is what happened. Jalen Carter's been charged with reckless driving and racing. That these are two misdemeanors that he's being charged with. And here's what happened. And to put you guys further into the scene, this was the night of the championship parade in Athens. So obviously, clearly some celebration going on, and well, they were partying. So it was, the wee hours, like 2:45 a.m. They go to a strip club, they go to Waffle House, and then they start driving. Chandler LaCroix came in at over double the BAC with 0.197 blood alcohol content. When she was tested, they were going 83 miles per hour and a 45 before crashing. And then, of course, passing away. Jalen Carter was there racing them, and he's changed the story many times. First, he said he was not right there with him. First, he said he was about a mile behind and he could only see their taillights. Then it was, oh yeah, I was right next to him. Well, there are literally scrapes on his car from the power lines that fell over that place him at the scene. There are phone calls from other UGA teammates that arrived that had heard about the crash that said, oh yeah, I heard it from Jalen Carter. That's how I got here. And again, after the championship parade, it's clear what happened here. It is clear. Wow. Thank you, Ahan. Yeah, so actually, this, to put further into perspective here, Ahan has just said that as of 9 minutes ago, Jalen Carter is back at the combine, and he's doing stuff. So he's doing it all. He's doing the interviews, measurements, other activities. Last night, he was in jail. Last night, he got arrested in Athens when he went back yesterday to Athens, and he got arrested last night. He was literally put in jail, but he was released within 16 minutes. I assume he already had a prearranged bail or bond agreement. So yeah, he was arrested and then out at 16 minutes, and then I guess all the way back in Indianapolis. But I think to me, really, the only thing this raises is just, character concerns. Obviously, we had about a month ago, Sean McVay came out and said there are some character concerns with Jalen Carter, and he got a little bit of flack for that. But I don't see how you could be essentially responsible and at the very least heavily involved in this situation and then just leave your friend and teammate behind. I know that there's a lot at risk, but it's just, it's gross to me. And we've seen this before with the Henry Ruggs situation, not quite as tragic. Well, definitely a lot more tragic, actually, kill an innocent woman and child. But with this being your teammate and friends, people, there was a whole nother car involved in the situation too. And he just left him. I get you're scared and everything, but this is your teammate, man. And I don't see, if I'm running an NFL organization, I don't care how talented this guy is. I don't want that in my locker room. I don't want a guy who literally doesn't care about his teammates. You guys are going to essentially war every single week. And you have a guy here who, left his friend and teammate more than just high and dry, just literally left him to die and is gone, just left. And he's at this point not really seeing any repercussions from it. Obviously he got arrested and out, and now he's at the combine participating. We all know how this is going to go. He's going to get drafted. And in fact, in terms of athleticism, a team's going to get a really, 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 really good deal. But I wonder at what cost. I have to wonder at what cost this Jalen Carter acquisition will be. I have to wonder that. Obviously, we still have a couple months before the draft, and then a few months before the season even starts. So it's just a sad situation. And you hate to see it, especially without everything else going on. He was almost projected to be the number 1 overall pick. So it sucks for him too. His whole career could be changing, taking a massive trajectory. I don't think it really will. But yeah. So that's that situation. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask, or else we shall go out upon our Thursday mornings. If you do have questions and you just don't want to ask me these questions, feel free to tune in at noon to Nate Polvote's show, Dear Mr. Fantasy. He just answers questions for you guys. You can send them on Twitter. You can email them to him. All of that fun stuff. Thanks for watching, you guys. You have a fantastic, fantastic day.
Hey, you like that video? Be sure to subscribe and activate those alerts so you get notified as soon as new videos drop. And be sure to check out PlayerProfiler.com. We have all the tools for you to dominate every type of fantasy league. We have a draft kit, Dynasty Deluxe, data analysis, DFS Dominator, and don't forget the player rankings to rule them all.